It was just after midnight when Ethan stumbled out of his workshop, the cold November wind cutting into his thin jacket. The rain was relentless, the kind that soaked you to the bone in seconds, and his tired eyes searched the empty street for the last bus home. That was when he saw them, two tiny figures huddled under the flickering light of a broken street lamp. They couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, identical in every way, same tangled chestnut hair plastered to their cheeks, same trembling shoulders, same wide, fearful eyes that glistened in the dark. They were shivering so violently it almost hurt to watch. Something in Ethan's chest clenched. He had no idea who they were, where they had come from, or why they were alone in this freezing rain, but he knew, in that moment, that walking away wasn't an option. If you believe in kindness, in the power of second chances, and in the beauty of helping someone when they least expect it, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to Ripple of Hope, and share this story. Let's keep the flame of humanity alive. Ethan had been struggling for years. After his wife passed away from an unexpected illness, he was left to raise his son, Oliver, alone. Work was scarce, and the small carpentry jobs he picked up barely kept the lights on in their one-room apartment. Some days, dinner was nothing more than toast and tea. He'd gotten used to the quiet ache of hunger in his own stomach, always making sure Oliver ate first. Money was so tight that even the thought of an extra mouth to feed felt impossible, yet here he was, bending down to meet the twins' frightened gazes, telling them softly, "Come with me, you'll catch your death out here." The walk back to his apartment was slow. The twins barely spoke, clutching each other's hands as if one might vanish if they let go. Ethan noticed the way their little shoes squelched with every step, the mud stains creeping up their tights. His mind was a whirlwind of questions, but he didn't press them for answers. Sometimes, a child's silence wasn't about stubbornness, it was about survival. His apartment was humble, to say the least. Peeling wallpaper, second-hand furniture, and a small gas heater that rattled when it worked. Oliver, rubbing his sleepy eyes, stared in confusion when his father came in with 2 strange girls. Without hesitation, he ran to fetch his own blanket, wrapping it around them while Ethan put the kettle on. The twins sat on the couch, sipping warm tea from mismatched mugs, their eyes darting around as if afraid this kindness might be taken away at any moment. Ethan noticed small bruises peeking from beneath one girl's sleeve and the faint smell of smoke clinging to their coats. That night, while the children slept curled together on the couch, Ethan sat in the dim kitchen, wrestling with a storm of emotions. He didn't know who these girls were or why they were out alone in the rain, but he knew trouble was close behind them. He could almost hear his late wife's voice in his head, urging him to do what was right, no matter the cost. The next morning, the truth began to seep out. Between shy glances and whispered words, Ethan learned their names, Lila and Grace. Their mother had died a year ago, and their father, well, they weren't sure where he was anymore. They'd been living with someone they called Uncle Ray, a man whose anger burned hot and fast. Last night, after he smashed a plate against the wall and started shouting, the girls ran. They didn't know where they were going, they just kept walking until their feet hurt too much to go on. Ethan's heart ached at the thought. He'd seen men like that before. He knew the damage they left behind wasn't just physical, it seeped into the soul. He called the local social services, but the voice on the other end was polite and weary, promising to look into it while hinting that foster homes were full. Something in Ethan rebelled against the idea of sending these girls into the system. He'd seen too many children chewed up and forgotten by it. So, against all reason, he decided they could stay for a night or two, just until things were sorted out. Days turned into a week. Despite the extra strain on their already thin resources, Ethan couldn't bring himself to send them away. Lila and Grace began to smile again, their laughter mingling with Oliver's as they played with scraps of wood in his workshop, turning them into castles and boats. Ethan found himself working longer hours, taking every small job he could find, just to make sure there was enough food on the table. Then, one rainy Thursday afternoon, everything changed. A sleek black car pulled up outside Ethan's building. From it stepped a man in an expensive coat, his presence so commanding that even the street seemed to quiet. His eyes swept the building until they found Ethan's small workshop door. He introduced himself as Nathaniel Cole, and the moment Lila and Grace peeked from behind the doorway, the man's hardened expression crumbled. He dropped to his knees, arms outstretched, tears filling his eyes as he called their names. The girls ran to him, sobbing into his chest. Nathaniel explained that he was their father, a wealthy businessman who had been abroad for months finalizing a major project. He'd left the girls in the care of his brother, trusting him completely. He hadn't known about the neglect, the fear, or the nights they spent hungry. When he returned and found them missing, he'd searched everywhere. Ethan listened quietly, a strange mixture of relief and sadness settling in his chest. He was glad they were safe, but he couldn't ignore the ache of knowing they were leaving. Nathaniel insisted on repaying Ethan, offering money, gifts, even a better apartment, but Ethan refused. He hadn't taken the girls in for reward. He'd done it because it was the right thing to do. Still, Nathaniel wasn't a man to forget kindness. A week later, a letter arrived for Ethan. Inside was a simple note thanking him for saving his daughters, along with a job offer, managing a new carpentry division for Nathaniel's company. The salary was more than Ethan had ever dreamed of. It meant security for Oliver, and a chance to finally breathe without fear of the next overdue bill. Ethan accepted. Not because of the money, but because he saw it as proof that kindness had a way of coming back, even when you least expected it. And sometimes, doing the right thing didn't just change someone else's life, it changed yours, too. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Ripple of Hope, and share it with someone who believes in the power of compassion. Special request, comment below with, "Kindness always finds its way back," so we know you were here with us till the very end.